Hey, welcome back. So today we're going to talk about something super foundational to why real estate is so amazing. Okay. It's called the four pillars. The four pillars are going to be appreciation, leverage, cash flow, and tax advantages. We're going to dig into why those are so important with real estate investing. Later, we're going to get into them individually, but today you're going to realize why I absolutely love real estate. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit story of what I was doing before this. So before, I was investing in stocks, in deferred comp, in crypto, and other avenues like your pension. Those are good. However, they only win in one way. So you have to buy at the right time and sell at the right time. And when you're playing a game that you can only win one way, it really it's dangerous. It really is. There's so many outside factors that affect what make those go up and down that are outside of your control. So I personally like to play a game where I could win in multiple ways. And one thing, I coach football, and one thing that I could tell you is when you're playing any game, and if it's football, it's pretty awesome that you could win from throwing, from passing, from your defense, from your special teams. It makes it exciting and it makes it easier to win. There's a lot more strategies involved. So, when we talk about a pillar, we want to look back into the ancient times and really think about what that means. So, a pillar, when I see a pillar and I close my eyes and I think about what that actually means, I think about the great Greek buildings, these giant pillars holding up they're the foundation for something really strong. And so, looking at the financial world, that is the same thing here. So these four pillars are super imperative to understand of why real estate is such a good tool and a good means to not only weather storms, but actually just the building blocks of your finances. Okay, so I remember one time I was asked the question that really humbled me. This was the really the change of the guard for how I did my finances. I'm a fireman, as you guys know, and I was asked the question, okay, Brian, what do you invest in? I'm like, oh, I invest in a deferred comp and I have a pension. And so the question got a little bit further. Okay, that's great. What do you invest in within your deferred comp? I'm putting money away every single month. What is it going towards? And I said, oh, that's easy. It's the target 45. I'm going to retire in 2045. And so I have a financial team that's putting that money to work. It's going to do great. And the next question was kind of just blew my mind, and it actually made me really think twice about how I was doing stuff. And the question was, name one company within that target 45. And I want you guys to ask yourself that same question. What do you invest in? What are the names of the companies within your target funds that you're probably in with whatever job you have? I couldn't answer it. I felt kind of ashamed, to be honest. I felt stupid. I remember as a rookie firefighter, I set those numbers in there. I looked down the chart. I go, oh, that one looks good. I'm going to take it. And 13 years later, I hadn't even thought about that stuff. And so what I realized is all these decisions were kind of spiraling outside of my control. Someone else was in there running my portfolio. I didn't know if it was good, it was bad. Yes, it was going up, but that very well could have been because I put money into it every month. And so I just felt like I needed a little bit more control. I need to take more control of knowing that information. If you get nothing else from today, just look into what you invest in and understand what it does. The next question was, hey, Brian, how did it do in quarter one of last year? I didn't know. How did it do in quarter two? I didn't know. How did it do in 3 and 4 and so on? I was unaware. That to me is a problem. So when people talk about real estate being risky, to me, I realized that I was taking the ultimate risk by not knowing that information. Okay, so we're going to get into pillar one. Pillar one is called appreciation. Everyone's heard of appreciation, but it comes in many forms. It's when you buy something and it goes up over time. That's the easiest, most simple definition of it. We're going to talk in particular about appreciation within the real estate markets. So since 1942, home prices have been doubling every 20 years. That's pretty amazing. there's been a lot of good things and that's happened since then, a lot of bad things from wars to recessions, and they still doubled during those times. In fact, a crazy statistic is that over the past 80 years, the real estate market's only gone down 7 times. 7 out of 80 years. That's crazy. I think the stock market's gone down 7 times over the past 6 months. So 5 of those were during a recession. And, I would argue that recession of 2008 wasn't actually a housing market crash. We don't have to get into this too much today. I'm going to call that a lending problem. They were throwing loans out to anyone and everyone that wanted them at that point, whether you're qualified or not. It was like being on the Oprah show. You get a loan, you get a loan, you get a loan. That's problematic. Right now, it's a little bit harder to get a loan, and I think that's a good thing. That protects us, right? It protects us from not being able to pay it and causing another crash. So, that's a whole separate subject. But what I want to say is, on average, in Middle America, home prices, they go up about 5% appreciation per year. You could have places in Miami, in Florida, in Hawaii, in California that go up exponentially more than that. There's places that maybe don't go up quite as much as that, but the average in the Middle America, the boring places like Tennessee and Alabama and Georgia and Missouri and Michigan, those are the places that I'm investing in. Those places have an average of 3 to 5%. So, what pillar 2 is going to be cash flow. So cash flow is the difference between what you owe on the mortgage and what you're getting in rent. There's a lot of factors that come into play. We have property taxes, we have insurance, we have vacancies and maintenance items and all that. But whatever's in your pocket at the end of the month that you can actually go spend, that is cash flow. Year 1 is not that sexy, you guys. I'll be honest. It could be $100, it could be $200, but the cool part is something called a 30-year mortgage. In a 30-year mortgage, you're fixed into what you owe for 30 years. So what's the X factor here? Every year, we're going to raise that rent, and we're going to have more cash flow and more cash flow and more cash flow. And I know you guys are going to think, and that's a good question to think, well, doesn't stuff cost more? Sure it is. So all we're doing is we're keeping up with inflation. So we're hedging ourselves with that inflation. But if you raise it, 2 to 3% a year, that spread gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And over time, over a 10-year period, you're getting a lot of cash flow. Okay. Even right now in these rates of 7 to 7.5%, I'm cash flowing on everything. The other really cool thing is you don't actually have to sell your property in order to get that. You're getting it regardless, right? If you were to have a stock or crypto, you would have to sell that asset in order to get the cash out. So I refer to real estate as a well. It keeps getting filled up and you can keep going to that well and going to that well. One strategy that we'll talk about later is how to do a cash out refi. That is an incredible way to pull money out. Number one, it's a lot of money that you could pull out, say 10 years from now. Number two, it's tax free. You don't get taxed on refis. Okay, you're taking a loan again. And the beauty of it is who goes to replenish that well? Not me. It's my tenant. My tenant goes to work. They pay back into the rent, which brings that mortgage down. It appreciates again and it goes up. Boom. It's a repeatable cycle over and over and over again. I love that. That's one of my favorite parts about this. Okay. So the next is leverage. Leverage is a huge factor here. I personally don't think that we could create wealth without having leverage. Sure, you could be independently wealthy and start buying all these properties, but you still want to have the leverage, and I'm going to prove it to you right here. Before I do that, leverage is also called other people's money. Wouldn't you rather make money with other people's money than your own? Absolutely. So a perfect example is, let's take a $100,000 house and let's buy it with cash. Uncle Rico gave me $100,000. I go buy this house, cash. Cool, great. It goes up 5% because it appreciates that 5% that we talked about. Next year, it's worth $105,000. I hope if you guys are following me there. How much have we made on our down payment of $100,000? Well, we've made $5,000. That's a 5% return on your money. It's still not bad, but you're missing the opportunity cost of putting the rest of that money to work. Option two, which is what I prefer and what I do and what I teach and what everyone should be doing, is you're going to go use other people's money. Those other people are called banks. They're called lenders. You're going to go to that bank and they're going to give you 80% to be able to put down on that house. And you're going to come up with a down payment of 20. So your down payment's $20,000. Their portion is $80,000. The cool part is we're not paying that mortgage back. Our tenant is, but we get the benefits of that borrowed money. It'd be like me handing you 80 grand and you get to make 5% interest on that. I don't know where else in the world you have that ability. Consider it way better than a match at a 401k. Your employer gives you a 4% match. We're giving you, 80% here, 80% of the value of that house. Okay. So let's take the same scenario. It goes up to 105 grand and so now we only put in 20 grand. How much have we made on that? What's the percentage? The first one was 5%. Well, if we put in 20 grand and we made 5, that's a 25% return on our money. So that's a significant amount more. That is a 5x of what we can do just from using leverage. Again, we don't pay this back. Our tenant pays it back. So I have no problem with that. I love it. Yeah, absolutely love it. So the very last one, and another really important one, is tax advantages. Tax advantages are insane here. Okay, so the number one killer of wealth is taxes. I believe that we should pay taxes. I'm an American and I love, I want the taxes to go to education and to schools and to fixing roads and all that. I do believe that that's there, but I also believe in, abiding by the rules of the tax laws. And real estate is meant for that. It has been since the founding fathers. There's the whole reason that people buy it is because there's certain laws that are meant for real estate investors. Okay. The wealthy understand this. They take advantage of it. They use it in their strategy. And like we talked about before, borrowing from your home that is a rental is the only way you can get tax-free money. You can't get it anywhere else. If you cash in your deferred comp, you get taxed. If you cash in your stocks, you get taxed. Tax here, tax there, literally, no joke, taxes everywhere. So we're going to teach you about depreciation and how you can utilize that to offset some of the gains that you make in your portfolio. We're also going to teach you how to set this up as a active business. And with an active business, there are tons of benefits, from meals to shareholder trips to cell phone, paying your kids, all kinds of stuff. In a legitimate way, we are going to save so much in taxes. Okay. So in conclusion, I just think the 4 pillars are incredible. The other thing I want to mention before I finally get to my last point is, let's just say, for example, you have all these 4 pillars, all 4 of them. And one thing, you could name it, you could think of it, but I'm going to tell you, let's say the market is not great. Well, what else? How are we still winning? We're playing this game for 4 ways. Well, we still have cash flow. We still have tax benefits, and we said appreciation is out the window, but we still have those leverage. So we're still winning. The property is just not gaining value. Now, let's say we don't have a tenant in place. That's the worst case scenario, probably, right? Everyone's biggest fear, no tenant. How are we still winning? Well, we still have the tax advantages and we still have the appreciation. So even in the worst scenario, we're still winning. I love that game and I'm going to continue to play it. I don't know where else you can find ways to win when things aren't great. Okay. So the very last thing I'm going to say is, you're going to hear all these gurus talking about, yeah, if you invest in real estate, you can get 25, 30, 35, 40% return on your investment. And I was like, yeah, right. Prove it to me. Well, I just did. So let's add up all the different ways we win again in a percentage wise. Appreciation, 5%. Principal pay down is going to be, somewhere between 3 to 5%. You have cash flow, 3 to 5%. You have tax savings, 4%, and you have that that leverage on your money, which is 25% that you're gaining. Add all those up, you guys. Those numbers are high, much higher than anything you can get anywhere else. So I think this is a game changer for me. I love the 4 pillars. In future episode, in a future part of the course that I'm teaching, we're going to break down appreciation, cash flow, leverage, and tax advantage, each in its own module, in its own strategy. And we're going to talk about how those work and how you could utilize real estate to just 10x what you're doing anywhere else. Okay. So hope you enjoyed it. I really appreciate your time. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I look forward to talking about those other pillars on a different episode. So reach out if you have any questions, and let's go. Invest like your life depends on it, and it does. It really does. Take care.